Welcome back. One of the first tasks the new Biden administration will take on at the Office of Management and Budget is a new president's management agenda. The biggest difference between the new one and President Trump's PMA is managing a federal workforce that's mostly working remotely. Stan Soloway, president and CEO of Celero Strategies, is writing about the new PMA in Washington Technology. Stan, welcome. Thanks for coming on. You write in this piece, this time around we should expect, or at least hope for, a new kind of agenda. Is that because the challenges and problems have changed between 2017 and 2021? Or is there something that you saw that was wrong with the president's management agenda the Trump administration introduced?
Well, I think it's a combination of things, Francis. I think, first of all, the circumstances we're in are so different than they were in 2017. Clearly, as you mentioned in the open, the pandemic and the remote work and the changing face of work and how people are working. So that has to work into it. I think we've also had a period of real degradation of the civil service over the last 4 years, which has to be addressed in the management agenda. But beyond that, it's clear that there's going to be a continuation and expansion of some initiatives that started 15 years ago, that we're going to have a constant administration to administration expansion, kind of on a nonpartisan basis, of things like digital transformation and really thinking through technology questions. But I think we're at a point now, and where I would hope we would be going, is to that next level. And the next level really is, how do we, let me back up and say, if you think about digital as an enabler to execution of work in a much more productive, efficient, customer-centric way, you also have to think about what the enablers of the digital are. So how do you get under the hood and now start really getting at some of those arcane business processes and policies that are limiting the degree of innovation you can bring at the front end? Because you, by definition, they set the parameters, they set the rules. And so when you think about things like robotic process automation and artificial intelligence and all the other pieces of digital transformation, how we can capitalize on it in the best way requires us to get under the hood. And then the final thing I'll say, going back to the workforce question, is given the degradation of the workforce, coupled with what we've known for many years, is a tremendous shortfall in talent coming into government. Our mutual friend Nick Sinai had a tweet yesterday about statistics around federal IT workers in the VA and how imbalanced they are, the demographics are. That's an ongoing problem. But as we go through the digital transformation, we have to really be thinking through the workforce implications, because there's going to be real impact. And so I think all of those things create kind of a new set of challenges, and looking at it across agencies on a collaborative kind of enterprise basis opens the door, I think, to some really bold thinking.
I want to come back to that term digital transformation if we have time, Stan, but you wrote here, there's every reason to expect the government's focus on and pursuit of innovation will continue. You put innovation in quotes, which reminds me that if you were saying it to me, you'd use air quotes. Why'd you do that?
Well, just for what I just said, is that innovation, we've seen a lot of innovation. Innovation has become a ubiquitous term, and so I put it in air quotes, or in actual quotes in the piece, because I think we have to think about what does innovation really mean, and what does it actually get us. And that's the point I was making a moment ago. Mm-hmm. To really innovate, to really drive change, there's huge cultural changes that have to take place, and we have to be willing to do a degree of business process reengineering, not just digital reengineering and transformation.
Is it time to substitute the term digital transformation for IT modernization, do you think?
You know, I think it's semantics, because IT modernization really in many ways often also refers to just the pipes, if you will, and upgrading systems and what have you, whereas digital transformation really gets you to that much broader sense of how work is done. So I think that they're somewhat different terms, but they're also probably used too loosely and too commonly. But when I think about things like how we do the public benefits, benefits and assistance to people, and you look at the lessons we've learned from the pandemic, and you realize that there were flexibilities placed in the CARES Act that enabled states to implement CARES Act relief around unemployment insurance, for example, in different ways, and how well that's worked. And 40 states have taken advantage of it. So now we have to start asking questions, well, if that works so well, why are we not just going to make that a permanent kind of change? Why are we not going to start thinking about how we can take those lessons from the pandemic and make them permanent? That's transformational. The digital is critical, and there's tremendous digital talent both involved in the transition. Just look at who's involved on the public list. But I think we have to go beyond that to really get to make change.
We just have a little bit more than a minute left, and I want to go back to the president's management agenda. What's not in the PMAs of the past that you want to see in what President Biden releases?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of us are hoping the first thing that's going to come out is a withdrawal of some of the executive orders that have been so troubling. There's a Schedule F and the equity and inclusion training executive orders. But I think what's not been in the management agendas as much as it needs to be in previous years is really the sense of cutting across the government, across agencies. We talk all the time about breaking down silos and all that kind of thing about the way government is structured. We don't spend enough time thinking about cutting across agencies and really looking at how we could integrate programs and integrate data, do integrated applications and so forth that could really change the face and streamline the face of how the government deals with the citizenry and also how it operates many of its other programs.
20 seconds left. You want something that cuts much, much deeper than the cross-agency priority goals then?
Cross-agency priority goals, but is a great idea, but how you actually have multiple agencies working together on a single goal. I'll take you one quick example. Take food stamps. You have USDA, you have all other players involved in that. Eligibility for SNAP, eligibility for unemployment insurance. These are things that could be done using integrated data from one agency to another to save the beneficiary lots of time and reduce strain on the system. There's a group called Families USA, which is going to come out with a paper soon called No Wrong Door. When you apply for benefits in one place, why can it not spread across others? Those are the kinds of transformational changes. That's just one small example, but those are the kinds of cross-agency where you actually have multiple agencies involved in a single effort, a single initiative.